Just in, alcohol consumption among U.S. adults falls to the lowest levels in modern history. So I saw this post on X, and it doesn't have the data supporting it and whatnot, but I saw that, and there's a lot of people that was praising this, and I think it might be a little misguided. Now, I haven't had a drink since mid-January, so almost 5 months, and I don't drink a ton in general. And I did a full year of the Live Hard program a couple years back, where it has certain challenges. It's like an extension of the 75 Hard program, has certain challenges, and then I did it for the whole year and did that, and then no alcohol. So that was really great. I learned a lot about myself, got in really good shape, was healthy, was fit, all fun things. But the not drinking of alcohol, I'll say this first. Alcohol is not like healthy for you. It is a poison, and you are like poisoning yourself when you drink it, and it is responsible for lots of bad decisions that people make. And when you're trying to get healthy and fit or lose weight or whatnot, it is more of a detriment than an enhancer for your progress. I was doing a fitness challenge last fall, the fall before, and with my brothers, and whenever I would drink during the fitness challenge, it basically reset my progress, my weight loss progress, by like a week or two. So I just knew that if I was going to go out and have a drink, right? Because I was new, I moved to Vegas, was new there, and so I wanted to be social and whatnot. And this is a critical thing I'll get back to. But I'd have some drinks, and then next thing I know, it was fine, right? But my weight would go up on the scale, and it took another week or two for me to get back on track of my weight loss. And that was even like, of course you consume more calories. Alcohol is a bunch of empty calories, so it's easy to, blow through your calorie budgets as well, especially if you're drinking a lot. And then also it's easier to add more food that is calorically dense. We're talking pizza, burgers, wings, even sweets, chips, that kind of stuff. They're typically associated with drinking. So it's easier to have that, to add those calories in, all of which can help derail your goals, okay? But it did kind of make it harder for me to reach those goals, right? But, and so I'm not like an advocate for alcohol, and right now, I'm sober, I'm not drinking. I've been doing a fitness challenge. I've lost nearly 30 pounds since the beginning of the year. I've been really pushing hard, working out, boxing, focusing on work, and not eating healthy, and making sure I get my protein in, and drinking, and it's been great from the health and fitness side of things. But I mentioned something about the social side, and this is something that you need to have in perspective when you read that headline about alcohol consumption being at the lowest levels. And that'd be good to see demographic data to see which levels where it's at the highest and which levels it's at the lowest. But I am significantly less social when I'm not drinking. And I think a lot of people are like that. There's some people that don't need a drink to go out and be social, right? They have, the social bug, and they thrive in those settings and in those scenarios. I am not that person. I like being social, don't get me wrong, but it's hard for me to be motivated and desired to go out and be social. I don't know what I'd do with myself at a bar or a club or a social event in general. Because, my life, this is me personally, but I think that a lot of Americans can resonate with this, is that, especially if they're not drinking, right? Is me personally, I work out and I do boxing, mountain biking, snowboarding, soccer, lifting weights, all that kind of stuff. So very active, and that takes up a good amount of time. And then I'm working a lot, right? I got my business, I got the YouTube channel, I got all this stuff that I'm doing there. And by the end of the day, right, I'm tired, right? I just want to turn my brain off. And drinking works really well for turning your brain off, especially turning your brain off in a social setting, right? Whereas for me, when I'm not drinking, I just end up hanging out at home. It's I'm kind of beat. I don't really want to go out, and so I don't do it. And so I'm not contributing to the people buying alcohol. But I think what's happening is, as a society, we are getting more and more fragmented and disconnected. And drinking, for all its problems that it has, it does one thing really well. It brings people together. It helps them turn their brain off a little bit, for better or worse, right? Drink responsibly if you drink, but it helps people shut down some of that anxiety or stress or fixation on some of the problems that they have in their life, or just the stress from their work, right? So it helps people relax in that way. And I think there are some benefits to that, right? And it also relieves some of the anxiety and stress people have about going out and being social. It also, makes a scene where you have a bunch of strangers, like a bar or whatnot, more fun. I mean, if you've ever been sober at a bar, it's less fun. And for me, right, where I'm trying to turn my brain off from working on business all day, from writing content, from reading things, from creating stuff, like I don't want to go to the bar and talk about work. Okay. And so when I'm sober, I'm like, well, what do I talk about? There's things I can talk about, but I end up talking more about work stuff, books I've read and all that, versus like if I'm drinking, you just kind of like, it's just a different energetic flow when you're drinking versus when you're not drinking. And it makes, for me, going out to a bar and being social in that manner more bearable. And I don't have to it's not physically taxing to go do something for a couple hours. Because when I'm thinking about things to do now, I'm like, okay, well, I've already worked out, I've already boxed, I don't really want to go mountain biking right now. I don't want to do something active. What do I do for fun with people, right? Where do I go find people? So there's that. But so I think what's happening is people aren't being as social, right? Their social lives are starting to get more sucked into online content and forums and communities. Then I think another thing that's happening is there's a lot more content and stuff on health and fitness and the detriment. So I think that's a plus. The problem is that it's not like Americans are getting healthier, fitter. We're not happier. People aren't more satisfied. Relationships aren't stronger. Live events and public stuff. Hopefully there's a resurgence, especially with all this stuff with AI. It's one of the only realms and domains that can't be fully copied, and you can't be fully outcompeted in actually the real world. Versus AI can do everything online. So hopefully we see that, but there's less and less incentive to actually go out, because right now we're in this phase where people are, they're stuck online or they're working a lot because things are more expensive. I think a big thing that ties into this, and this is something that is there more, is that it's expensive to go out and drink. And you have a lot of young adults who would do that, would be going out and socializing, but it's just so expensive to do it, to go out to a bar and pay $10, $15, $20 for a beer or a cocktail. How many of those can you get when you're not really making money? Gas is almost at all-time high prices. You can't even afford a house, right? And all of that. So I think it's indicative of that. But I think another thing is that young women aren't going out. So as a young man, right, one of the reasons why you go out is you go out to meet girls. You're like, hey, we're gonna go out, we're gonna be in this environment, people are gonna be relaxed, you can cut loose a little bit, you can have fun, and you go out to meet girls. Well, girls nowadays, they don't need to go out to get attention, because back in the day before the internet, they would have to go out to get attention, right? They gotta go out to find where the guys are at. Now, they have their phone, and they have dating apps, and they don't even need dating apps. They have Instagram, where they get DMs from guys all over the world. All they gotta do is take some pictures, get some DMs, and they get their validation all from the safety and comfort of their own home. So they don't even have to go out. And so what I've found and what I've seen is that there's fewer and fewer women out at the bars. And so as a young man, if you're like, okay, I'm gonna go out and spend some of my money that I made this week to, hopefully meet some women, right? Maybe get a girlfriend or whatnot, and have some fun with my friends. Well, you go out and then there's no girls there, or there's a couple and they're not very attractive, or they're not even interested in talking with you. Well, that's not a very good payoff. And then if you do go out and you do see girls, a lot of them just aren't as attractive as you wanted to, because like I said before, it's not like Americans are getting fitter and healthier. We have a problem. And so there's a lot more people that are overweight. And so now they're a little bit less attractive. And so you're like, I need to have a few more drinks, but I can't afford a few more drinks for that. And then, right, even if you do meet some of these women, and this is just how the dating dynamics are, a lot of them today aren't even marriage or relationship material, because they're getting all this attention. They have all these guys. They're, the women are now, dating multiple people, or they have all this trauma and all this stuff. It's just not a good environment. I mean, if you've plugged into the dating scene, or you've watched any content on that, pay attention to that at all, it's not a good environment for having strong relationships. And so as a young man, or just a man in general, going out, you're like, okay, I can spend a bunch of money, I can get drunk, I can, kind of have a hangover the next day, and what's my payoff, right? at least in the past, there was a payoff like, hey, it's social, people have to go there to interact, you could see some of the same people often, and then, you could actually meet people out. You make those connections. Now there's less of that. And I think part of that is like if less women are going out, and I've worked in bars and restaurants and whatnot, it's just like the energy dies, right? Because that energy comes from a bar, a restaurant, an event, it comes from the polarity between the men and women, okay? So you have to have a good level of women and men at the event to create that energetic flow at these places. Well, if you don't have the women, there's just a bunch of dudes, and it's just like, okay, great, but there's no like next level. You're just gonna bro out with a dude or talk about sports, which is great, right? There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's like guys generally want to have a purpose to things. And so I think that's contributing to it. So you have social isolation, a lot of stuff online. People are being more pulled into that stuff online. You have costs of it going up. You have expenses and things like that in people's lives going up. You have the stresses associated with all of that. And then you have the fact that like young men can't afford drinks as much. And then there's not the women out there, so the payoff is down for people going out. And I think this is all contributing to this. And so seeing that, hey, alcohol consumption's down, it would be fantastic. It was because people were healthier, they were fitter, they were happier, more satisfied, they were forming relationships, they were having kids, they were doing all those things. That'd be amazing, right? And marriage rates were going up and marriage satisfaction rates were going up. That'd be great, but we don't see those things. And so I think ultimately it's not like because people are healthier, happier, fitter, all that kind of stuff are choosing to reject alcohol. I think it's because our society is decaying and the social structures and rituals and things that we had are being eroded. And I don't think that's a good sign, because I think it's causing more isolation in people. It's causing less social cohesion. It's also preventing, less mixing when you're younger to go out, right? Less engagement between the sexes, which of course can further the divide and the already hostile gender war that's going on. So I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to see those stats. I think it's something that we need to pay attention to. And it's not like, hey, we need people to drink more, but it's, hey, how can we start facilitating a more dynamic and healthy social environment so that people aren't isolated, so that we can actually form relationships, so we can actually be connected. And that's a really tough question. And it's a really hard thing. And I don't necessarily think you can fully separate out alcohol from that, because it's just been a part of human history for the entirety of our history. And I think in moderation, I think it's a very powerful thing. And I think it's an essential thing. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think everyone should go do it. I don't think everyone should get drunk or whatnot, anything like that. I think you have to be responsible about this stuff. But I think it is an important enhancer of the human social experience, and that social experience, I think, is part of a healthy society. And it's weird how that works out, but so seeing that it is at record lows is just kind of like, man, it's not a cheering moment. I think it's a, man, what is going on, right? There's things and dynamics playing out in society that we need to figure out and we need to solve, because if we don't, it's only going to get worse. The division between people is going to increase. Live events and stuff like that. Once you go below a certain level of like capacity, right, or energetic standard, then it's no fun, right? A bar is fun when it's mostly packed. It's not fun when it's packed, but it's fun when it's mostly packed. And you can go there and be like, you can meet people. It's less fun when it's just empty and quiet and no one's there. And there's no opportunity, right? There's no potential chaos. There's no potential something new. I know that because I used to live in a mountain town where the bars there in mountain towns, it's like the ratio of men to women was like 8-1. And the bars there, which is all the same guys every week, just drinking, doing the exact same thing. And it was like cool to go sometimes because you could see some people but then at the same time, it's like there's no there's no newness to it. It's lacking some energy. It's lacking potential. And that creates a problem. And unfortunately, that problem for some was that they resorted to, especially in mountain towns, this is a well-known thing, they resorted to more drugs and more alcohol to satisfy those kind of like need for adventure, need for potential, need for opportunity, need for something new that they weren't getting from having a good, healthy social buzz. So I think we need to find ways to bring back that healthy social buzz in America. And I don't know the answer. I mean, it certainly isn't like, hey, everyone needs to get drunk more, but maybe that is the simple answer, So anyways, just those are my thoughts on that topic. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to see how things play out. I do think there is hope and optimism for the future, especially as stuff with AI comes up and people start seeing that you're getting outcompeted online by all these AI agents and content and whatnot. And hopefully we start seeing people seek novel experiences in the real world more and more, and we get more of that social buzz, and we start coming together versus being just siloed and split apart and just being online in our rooms all day. So anyways, let me know what you think about this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.